So our sink has been giving us some issues lately. Basically, when you go to close it, if you don't close it just right, you have leaks. So just for example, see there, have some leaks. So you have to make a little adjustment. There we go. Made an adjustment, stopped leaking. The process can get frustrating sometimes. That was pretty simple. It frustrates my wife quite a bit more than it does me even. So we've decided to go ahead and change that for a slightly different aesthetic. We're gonna add some all black parts, which is what this is. This is the soap dispenser portion of it. Still waiting on the arrival of the sink from Amazon, and with regards to the filter faucet, we have not been able to find a suitable replacement. We need one that has dual handles because ours is actually connected to its own tankless water heater. That allows you to just, you know, have a cup of tea without having to boil water, for example. It's very convenient, but it's very hard to find another one with two legs. And I researched that actual one that we have there because I can see the brand on it, and it doesn't come in black, and it also costs like $500, which is pretty impressive with this little thing right here. You know, it could be $500. This portion with the tankless water heater connection is pretty sweet. Like that water starts to come out boiling hot once it's flowing. So I'm just going to walk you guys through the process of this installation and changing up the aesthetic here in the kitchen. First up is going to be the soap dispenser. So this looks like it's going to be a fairly simple install. All right, this is the soap bottle. This component here is what's going to hold it to the sink, this washer. So most likely, yeah, definitely, you're going to have a rubber gasket on either side, one over the counter, one under the counter. Washer will tighten this in place, and then you'll fill this with soap and thread it in, and there's your soap dispenser. So here's the area under the sink. All this stuff is kind of in the style of the previous owners of the home. That is to say that they bought a lot of brand name, very nice equipment. And I say this with all due respect to them because they're very nice people. I personally feel that there was a lot of focus on buying nice brand name equipment, but not as much focus on installing it properly. So for example, there's the bundle of snakes lengths of hose here, which honestly they could have gotten a much shorter hose and accomplished the same thing, and they wouldn't have this massive mess down here. And it's something that I plan to correct in due time. But for now, let's focus on the soap. So there's the soap dispenser back there. It's the green looking part because it's full of a green soap. All I really have to do is unthread that, and then I have to undo the washer that's holding it to the sink, and it should pull out of the top, and I should be able to replace it with my brand new one. So let's test that theory, shall we? Alright. Soap dispenser's coming down. Got that. Now to do the washer portion, which is probably going to require some contortion on my part. You won't really be able to see it, but just kind of reaching up under here. Undoing the washer. Alright, there's that. Now I'll take up the upper trim ring and the threaded portion. That's that. Gasket for this was broken already. The stuff is still in pretty good shape, so I'll likely clean it up and place it for sale. Someone else could take advantage of it. There's going to be filth built along the sink where that was installed, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. So you can see there's some crud built up there. So I'm just going to wipe that off with a Bounty towel and warm water. gross. All right, I've cleaned up the area. Now I'm gonna drop in my new soap dispenser. And I'll come in with the gasket and the washer from the bottom. That should be held on tightly. From there, I'll move on to installing the soap bottle. All right, so I've got the washer installed from the bottom. Didn't really film that because there's not really much to show. It's just you thread it on. So now I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the soap from the old bottle into the new one, and then I'll install the bottle and this should be done. Now that I've transferred the soap from the old container into the new one, I'm going to come in from the bottom and install the new soap container. Which is made harder because there's a ton of hose that doesn't need to be here because again, they used excessively long hoses. All right, so now the soap container is installed fully. The only thing left to do is to prime it and test it out. Now I was surprised that even though the other bottle looks smaller, because of the slight difference in diameter, it actually holds the same exact volume as the original bottle. And there it goes. Perfect. That's that. Now when the sink comes in and the cabinet pulls, I'll go ahead and get those done. So the cabinet handles are here, and so is the sink. I'm going to go ahead and start off with cabinet handles because it's pretty simple. They're just held in with 2 screws on the back here. So I just got to come around back here with a drill, take this out. So basically, got to take out this screw and this screw. I can remove this, and then I can replace the handle. These are like multi-part. And the screws they come with are not long enough. Lovely. Hopefully I can reuse these screws. Yep, looks to me that they're about the same thread. Hopefully they're the right length. Yep, they will work. Alright, so that's one set of them. Now to do the rest. all of the cabinet pulls are now done, and I have to say it's given the kitchen a much nicer look than the previous silver stuff. Now all that's left to do is to put in the sink. Now it's time to do the sink. First I've got to undo both of the lines going up to the sink, and then I gotta unclip that weighted section. I've also shut off the valves on both of them. You see the valves, one up top, and there's actually one off to the right that you can't see very well probably. It's behind that white pipe on the right near the filter. So those two are shut. I'm going to go ahead and undo them. That's one. Gotta get at the other one. Just get a flat wrench that's the size, because this is too cumbersome. Alright, so it looks like a size 16 flat wrench is about the closest to that. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one out. I have to support it with my hand while I do it. So this is the tool that was installed on the sink that came with my house. It basically sat there on the bottom, and you're supposed to be able to undo the nut that's holding it in using this. Of course, it's on tight, and it's probably seized from moisture over the years. And this plastic garbage is not going to be able to do the job. Like, these tabs started to bend as I was trying to turn this. So what I've done is I've crammed it in a socket, because luckily it has the right shape on the outside. And I'm going to try with this wrench to undo it. Hopefully this works. Otherwise, I'll have to resort to more destructive means. Alright, here goes nothing. Wish me luck. This just broke. Yep. So this turd broke. I don't have a socket deep enough to do this. So on to the brute force methods. I've tried moving the faucet back and forth. I broke the trim ring on the bottom, hoping that would allow me to slide out the clip on the bottom that is holding it. But apparently, I guess it has a hole and it slides up on the shaft, and then you tighten the nut, so you can't just remove the clip. So I'm going to have to resort to even more brute force methods, which unfortunately means I have to cut it. The hacksaw. That brought me a lot of satisfaction. So let's analyze this terrible design that they used in order to restrain the sink from the bottom. Right, so the sink was originally one piece with this. They have this clip that slides into here, right? And you thread this nut all the way up from the bottom, you tighten it. Of course, over time with moisture, this stupid nut is going to seize. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to turn. If the nut seizes and this is a slide-in clip, then you could just move the sink back and forth up top and slide this out because there's no longer sufficient pressure on it. But because they did this stupidity, you can't slide it out. So you're forced to destroy the sink in order to remove it. Fine, I mean, I don't need it anymore. It was bad, but let's say you were taking it off just to replace it because you wanted a different style or color and thought to maybe sell that one or put it somewhere else, maybe in another property that you own. It is an expensive, valuable faucet. Knowing the people who used to live in this house, they like the better things in life. So they definitely did not spare any expenses on things like faucets. That little small one over there, as I mentioned earlier, is like $400 or $500. But anyway, this is just a really terrible design. If you're a designer and you use stuff like this, please reconsider doing stupid things like this, or else find a career you're better suited toward. Seriously, it's annoying and unnecessary. Now that the old sink is out of the way, I'll go ahead and drop in my brand new sink. Very, very grateful to be able to do this finally. Very nice looking sink. So now I've just got to come up from the bottom and install the rubber washer, metal washer, and this threaded retainer. It has these two bolts on there that I can tighten in order to grab on and increase the pressure. When I want to remove this in the future, I can simply back up these screws and then that'll remove tension and I can take this out. Now this is a different metal than the threaded portion, but I'm going to go ahead and apply an anti-seize to this regardless, just so that if I ever have to replace this in the future, I won't have to deal with breaking the thing like I did there, although this design is much better and I doubt that it would be as much of an issue. The faucet is now locked in place, so I'm going to go ahead and install the hanging weight and make the hose connections. Then I'll turn the water on and test this out. There's a sticker here that marks where to install the weight. On there nice and tight, and I'll loop it up and clip it to the other side, and I have my hot and cold lines here. Not sure if it shows up on the camera, but the hot has red lines on it, the cold has blue lines on it. Alright, our new sink is in place. I like the look of the all black sink and the all black soap dispenser. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we don't yet have a suitable replacement for the filter faucet. However, I'm probably just going to remove that and paint it black or find another way of turning it black. I hesitate to do something like rust bluing just because we get water that we consume from there, so I don't wish to have toxic chemicals coming out of that. Let's test the sink out. Very nice. Some initial filth coming through there. Fill it with hot water. Nice. We've got cold and hot water. So here we have the finished product. The sink is on, the soap dispenser is on, all of the cabinet pulls have been replaced. It's not a massive difference, but the kitchen definitely looks much nicer than it did before. It's a sort of simple change, but very nice.